How about more than 1,000 Honduran migrants headed toward Guatemala on Thursday to reach the U.S. southern border? So you have these 1,000 Honduran migrants making their way here. And all eyes are turning to Joe Biden because he has said numerous times he's going to roll back some of the Trump administration's restrictive immigration policies. Restrictive being his word, not mine. I want to bring on Victor Avila right now, retired supervisory special agent with ICE Homeland Security Investigations. Victor, thanks for coming back on the show.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
All right, so what's Biden going to do here? Is he going to throw out a giant welcome mat across our southern border?
He basically has already, and that's why you see the first 1,000 people coming and headed their way to our border. And the interviews that they've done of some of these caravanners is that they're ready to seek asylum. And we're going to go back to what we saw a couple of years ago with the whole chaos and that happened down at the southern border with the children, the family unit, and them seeking asylum and credible fear of trying to access our country. And again, we're going to run through the same issue where they're not qualified for asylum. They're not being persecuted. They don't have a credible fear from their country and from their government, but yet they're making their way over because the welcome mat has been laid out by Joe Biden.
Victor, the story we're going to get, well, you've got these people, these Honduran migrants. They were hit by 2 hurricanes, economic devastation. They're poor. They got nowhere to go. We're the United States of America. We need to help people like this. But what do you see with it now? Now, some of these individuals may be what I just described, but what inevitably happens to a caravan like this? Who infiltrates it?
And you're absolutely right. I mean, we're humanitarians at heart. This really has nothing to do with that. It has to do with the protection of our sovereignty and the safety and security of our U.S. citizens. And this is exactly what happens as we have the bad people, the criminal element, and possible terrorists infiltrating themselves in these caravans to gain access to the United States. And that's the real issue. This becomes a national security issue rather than just a border security issue.
Talking right now to Victor Avila, retired supervisory special agent with ICE Homeland Security Investigations. Victor, too, I mean, we're in the middle of a pandemic. You've got people over there who have not had vaccines, who we don't know their medical backgrounds. We don't know what virus they may or may not be carrying or what they may be bringing across the border. I mean, that's another challenge to this.
That's a great point. As a matter of fact, on Friday, CBP, Customs and Border Protection, have issued a new restrictions on land border crossings, really restricting only essential border crossings until January 21st because of the influx of COVID cases coming from Mexico, especially in cities like El Paso, Texas, that have been overrun with positive cases and then taken over into our hospital systems. As a matter of fact, I'm in Texas, and people from the border towns are now being brought into places like Dallas and Houston because the border cities are overrun. And so that's a big issue now that we have with COVID as well. So if you add all this up together, it's not a good idea. And I do talk about all this in my book, Agent Under Fire. If people want to, I put solutions on there. People want to take a look at that.
All right, I'm going to get to your book here in a second, but let me ask you this. How should Joe Biden respond to caravans like this one, Victor?
Well, I think that he needs to realize, and I hope he comes to his senses, that what the impact it's going to have on not just our border, but our communities in the United States all over. Remember, these people want to come not just to our border cities, but into our cities in Chicago, Maryland, all over the United States. And I hope that he just doesn't try to change all this with a stroke of a pen and realize the impact it would have if he would just open it wide up to everyone. And it'll be a big challenge. It'll be chaotic for sure.
You said you put how you would solve some of these problems we have at the border. What specific problem do you think is the biggest that we have right now, and what is the way to solve it?
Speaking on the topic is asylum. The criteria to seek asylum into our country is very clear. You have the bullet points that tell you exactly what you need and what you have to experience in your home country in order for us to consider you for that. And all we have to do is respect that criteria and enforce it. Simple as that. If we do that, we could control a lot of the people that are coming in and seeking asylum. We must remain with the people seeking asylum from their country instead of having them come in, release them into our country, never to be seen again. The other thing, of course, that I lay out is the cartels. We have to really boggle down, and they have taken over control of the country of Mexico. By the way, guess what happens? These caravans come through Mexico. Guess who they come in contact with? It's the cartels. It's the criminal element. And so you have additional crime. The women get raped. The men get caught into trying to have to work for them. They get extorted. There's so many things, and it's all has to do with the cartels. And I lay out my book about how we have to solve taking down these cartels and basically designating them as foreign terrorist organizations.
The book, once again, is called Agent Under Fire, A Murder and a Manifesto. Victor, how many years were you with ICE?
I was with ICE a total of 12 years and a total of almost 20 years of federal service.
Okay. In all those years, how many Democratic politicians did you see come down to the border and ask questions, see firsthand what's going on, ask you and others, whether it's Border Patrol agents, ICE, what can we do to help you?
Very, very, very few. I worked a lot of my career under the Obama administration, and they did a lot of photo ops. I'll tell you that, and it's one of those things that you cannot solve the border issue when you go down there for 5 minutes, and all of a sudden you think you've seen it all. I've worked the cases not just at the ports of entry, but in between the ports of entry, where we see a lot of activity, where we've been erecting this wall. That, by the way, Biden said he's gonna end construction of this wall on day one. So there's a lot of issues that under a Biden administration, the men and women of our border security and border patrol down at the border are going to really suffer in the tools that they currently have right now.
All right. In the name of being objective, I'm going to ask you the same question. All those years, how many Republican politicians came down, asked questions, wanted to see what was going on? Hey, how can we help you?
Very few, but the one that sticks out to me is Senator Ted Cruz. He would come down there very, very often and was really, really in tune of what was going on, especially obviously because he's from Texas. But I was really impressed with the knowledge that he had, the intricate knowledge of Border Patrol, of what issues they were going to down at the checkpoints, down on the river. And he's one of the ones that I could mention that went down there pretty often.
Yeah, and see, that's amazing to me. I mean, both parties have seemed at times disinterested, and that is shocking to me because this is always such a huge point, whether it's debates, political runs, what have you. National security is such a huge issue with people running for political office, yet very few come down there to find out firsthand what's going on.
That's very true. And, all of a sudden I've been hearing lately, like, hey, what's going on down at the border right now? Everything seems to be very quiet. And it's absolutely not quiet. It's just that the media hasn't been covering what's going down there. And we're talking about seizures of methamphetamine, of fentanyl, of heroin that continues to come in, human smuggling cases, tractor trailers full of people at the checkpoints being intercepted. And those are the ones that we're catching. So when that happens and those numbers go up, that means that what we call down at the border, the getaways, are at a higher number. And those getaways are making their way into our country.
All right, Victor, thanks for being on the show again.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
All right, that is Victor Avila, retired supervisory special agent with ICE Homeland Security Investigations.